Welcome back to the best Dominion cards list. This time part 3. We're still on the 0 to 2 cost cards. Now ranks 30 to 21. Let's get right started. Rank 30, Vagrant. Vagrant has a solid lead of over 4 percentage points over Mode. After rising the last 2 years, it lost just like Mode 2 ranks and a significant amount of points. Yeah, Vagrant is really nice in decks where you which are really messy, where a lot of bad cards in it, can clean up the top of your deck, giving you a better turn next turn. Or in decks where you build an engine but you can't get rid of, for example, your starting estates, Vagrant can really help and keep you stable also when you're greening in the late game. But it just doesn't do a whole lot for you, so it's not all that great. Rank 29, Poorhouse. After losing the last 2 years, Poorhouse won one rank, but stayed nearly the same average twice. It has still a decent amount of disagreement. Yeah, Poorhouse is either terrible or really good. It's really annoying to forget about it with remake or upgrade when you get it, but it can be really nice when you can get rid of your starting coppers and don't want to add treasures. Poorhouse can give you a lot of money. It combos nicely, for example, with Hamlet. Hamlet can discard your treasures and give you the action to play 2 Poorhouses for a province. And can be a really good payload if you have the extra buys, or can easily gain them otherwise with upgrade, remake, or develop, for example. Then it can be a really good payload. But in other decks where you have to get the payload from treasures, it's just not really that great, as it only gives you money, which is not always which are often not the greatest cards, the cards that only give you money. Rank 28, Haven. Haven continues to slowly lose ranks year after year. Again, it lost 1 rank and nearly 5 percentage points. Just like Poorhouse, it has a lot of divergent views. It has also a decent lead over Poorhouse of nearly 5 percentage points. Yeah, Haven used to be considered a pretty good 2-cost card, but a lot of times it just doesn't do a lot for you. It helps you connect pieces like Tournament with Province or treasure maps or something. Then it is really nice, like a mini tactician. But or it's also nice if you draw your deck and have enough villages so to get your next hand started with a village, like a mini scheme in that case. But that it decreases the hand size this turn hurts a lot of times. If you aren't that careful, don't get a lot of them, because then you have a lot of hands with nearly no cards in hand. So you have to really evaluate if it's really a good addition in your deck. Don't get it just because it says +1 action, +1 card, thinking about it, that it's a cantrip. It really depends on the board. Rank 27, Seller. After gaining 2 ranks the last 2 years, it lost 2 again. It also lost over 5 percentage points. It is still 1 rank higher in the unweighted ranking. Yeah, Seller is similar to Haven, that it decreases your hand size, and if you get too many of them, you're really doing not a lot of good. It's doing not a lot of good to you, but it really shines in games with weak trashing or no trashing, and with a lot of draw, like stables or labs or alchemists. Or advisors, for example, especially where you get the bad cards in hand, especially. Then you can discard your bad cards and get the good cards in hand. Then it really is good. But in decks where you can't increase your hand size, Seller is not that great. It's only better in decks where you have a lot of variety with a lot of bad cards like curses and a lot of good cards like, for example, golds in messy chunking decks. Then you can discard curses for golds, for example, in a soothsayer deck or soothsayer money deck. Then it can be quite good. But yeah, just like Haven, it really depends on the board. It can be really good or really just terrible. Rank 26. There's the new card Patrician. That's the new second Empires card. It is 2 ranks higher in the unweighted ranking. Yeah, this is another card that really depends on the board. I mean, Emporium costs 5 guaranteed, so it combos with itself, of course, with a split pile. But it really needs trashing, because otherwise you have a lot of coppers and estates in your deck, and if you can't really get the benefit from cards that cost 5 or more. But if you can trash down fast, it really shines. It's a cheap non-terminal draw, which is always really strong, like Labs or Stables, just for 2. But of course limited to the cost. So if you can get a lot of 5 costs also, like with Altar, then it really shines. Rank 25, Scouting Party. Scouting Party is one of the big winners in this year's list. It is 5 ranks and over 8 percentage points better than last year, but just only 0.04 percentage points better than Patrician. In the unweighted ranking, it is still 2 ranks lower, and it also has quite a high deviation. Yeah, Scouting Party I think was underestimated a bit last year. It's quite often that if you have 2 coins left over, as you don't even need the plus buy, you can get the cycling basically for free. So this is really good, for example, to get to your travelers faster, or in decks where you have a lot of junk or can't trash, and that's not that quite uncommon. Of course, in games where you can trash down, Scouting Party just isn't that great. But it's quite a useful utility if you have 2 coins left over, or even if you have 3 coins left over and don't want another silver. Scouting Party can really help guaranteeing you to get to your pieces together, especially in the early game, where you even if you have trashing but didn't trash down, still haven't had the opportunity to trash down, then Scouting Party can really accelerate your game. Rank 24, Settlers. And here's the next Empires card. Like the card before, it has only a lead of 0.04 percentage points. It is 1 rank lower in the unweighted ranking. Yeah, Settlers is a really nice opener if you have 5-2, because it doesn't hurt your deck, and if you draw it turn 4, it's also giving you economy, like a Peddler. Then it really helps you getting to the cards that you want. Of course, if you manage to trash down, it's worthless. It's just a cantrip, just like Pearl Diver. But in all other cases where you don't draw your deck, because if you draw your deck, your discard is empty, so this doesn't work either. But in all other cases, Settlers, if you don't draw it after your shuffle, if you draw it the turn afterwards, it's a nice cheap Peddler that is worth considering picking up. Rank 23, Pawn. Pawn continues to stay in the midfield. This time it's 1 rank higher than last time. Yeah, Pawn, it looks bad in comparison to Candlestick Maker, but it can't be negated that the +1 card is very useful often, because you can keep picking pawns up, because at the worst it's a cantrip, while Candlestick Maker can't do that. So even in decks where it shines, like in minion decks, where you use +1 action, +1 coin, or +1 action, +1 buy, a lot of times it still helps you to get to your minions. If you have a hand of a lot of pawns and don't have a minion, you can still use the pawns for +1 card, +1 action. With Candlestick Maker you can't do that. So it's really nice to have the +1 card option, although it's not that great in comparison to Candlestick Maker, of course. And a non-terminal +buy is always really useful in a lot of engines. This is also, of course, really good on its own, even if Candlestick Maker is not on the board. Rank 22, Native Village. Native Village is this time slightly below average in comparison to all the other years. Lost quite a bit, 2 ranks and 6 percentage points. Yeah, Native Village has a lot of uses. It works with Apothecary Native Village, where you can use it as a pseudo treasure, put the green cards on the mat, or Native Village Bridge, where you can use it for a mega turn. But still, it's also a cheap village in all other cases, where you can use it most of the time for putting a lot of cards on the mat, and then at the end of the turn putting them all on your hand. Then it's nearly as good as the normal village. It just draws most of the cards -1 basically. So it's a really cheap village. You have still to be careful that it doesn't draw that great. So maybe you don't want all that many of them, but if you need a village and have the terminal draw, this is still worth picking up, of course. Rank 21, Traveling Fair. Traveling Fair is this time the card closest to average. It's 1 rank better, but still has a lot of disagreement. Traveling Fair is also very board dependent. If you have a strong engine but missing the buys, well, there's Traveling Fair for you. Works like a charm. Then there's a Counting House Traveling Fair combo, of course, which is really strong. And then, for example, with a Bridge Mega Turn, if you don't have enough buys, you can still get enough buys. Of course, Traveling Fair cost doesn't get reduced, so you still need the 2 coins. But yeah, if you need the extra buys, it's really there for you. You don't have to build around, get a weak terminal +buy card, for example. Just get a card that gives you more money, and then you can get the Traveling Fair whenever you need it. It's a really neat utility event. And also it works like a scheme that you can get on demand. Putting cards on top of your deck is really handy. If you don't, so in the mid game, for example, where still don't have, or the early mid game, still don't have your deck under control, you can guarantee to put a village, for example, that you just bought, put on top of your deck, and guarantee to kick off next turn. A lot of nice uses for it, but there are still a lot of boards where this card just sits there and doesn't get used. So it's, I think, deservingly in the midfield. A lot of good uses, often but ignored. 50-50 basically. So this is part 3. These were the 10 cards in the lower midfield of this list. Leave some comments where you think you disagree or agree, especially again on the new cards, Patrician and Settlers. And what do you think about Scouting Party? Did he deserve the big rise in ranks? Also, of course, I'm looking forward to the comments on the forums and where you think the missing cards will land. See you soon. Bye.